since Virginia's wrongful incarceration policy was established in 2004, 31 bills have been filed and 25 awards have been granted. Today, we review 7 bills that would establish payments for individuals who have been wrongfully convicted, imprisoned, and later exonerated. We will also be reviewing legislation that would amend the code to update the formula on how relief payments are calculated. Before we begin, I would like to ask the staff to call the roll. Katie?
Senator Edwards? Here. Senator Lucas?
Here.
Senator Peterson?
Here.
Senator Vogel?
I'm sure she'll be here. Okay, the first patron is Delegate Sullivan, who has all but one of the bills. Yeah, please do. Here's the mic you can use.
I was going to suggest we start with 397. Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, 397 is an update to the bill you referenced in your opening remarks, Mr. Chairman, which the General Assembly passed a long while ago, setting up this system. The system's been tweaked a couple times since, but really not in any major way. So what 397 does is, I think, update it, among other things, it had provisions in it that dealt most particularly with the amount and the calculation of the payments, and then also, as introduced, at least had some. It was identical to Senator Lucas's 755, had some reforms to who might be eligible. For instance, it took out the bar on someone having pled guilty, a bar, by the way, that the body had ignored before. It made it mandatory rather than discretionary. It changed shall to may. It did away with what we call the subsequent acts forfeiture, meaning if someone, after having been wrongfully incarcerated and compensated, subsequently committed some crime under the existing statute, any existing payments under the annuity go away. That seems to us to be any subsequent offense would be unrelated to the original wrong, and so we took that out. The bottom line is the bill has changed some as it went through the House. As it's before you, the Judiciary Committee has conformed it to SB 755, so all those other provisions are still in it. My sense is, since I'm in front of the Claims Committee, that the big issues this morning, although I'm happy to talk about all of them, have to do with the amount of compensation. And the two bills in the House and Senate right now differ. 397, as it's currently configured, since it's been conformed to 755, uses a median income analysis. That is, it takes the most recently available median income in Virginia and multiplies it by the number of years that someone's been incarcerated. The 6 bills in front of you that I have, and I'll ask Delegate Hudson to whisper in my ear about hers, deal with gentlemen, in this case all men, who were wrongfully incarcerated, just to be clear, meaning they did not commit the crimes for which they were incarcerated, for 27 years, 22 years, 32 years, 20 years, 7 years, 8 years, and Mr. Crum, 10 years. Long periods of time that Virginians have wasted away in jail for things that they didn't do. Every time I've done a bunch of these, this is the first time I've ever heard that the total over the years is 25. I think I've done at least 5 of those since I've been here. These are always
25 years.
Pardon?
You say 25
No,
years?
25 claims have come before the body or been awarded by the body. I think I've done 5 of those before, not including obviously these 6. The stories are just always heartbreaking about what these folks lose, and I should add. For anyone listening, that Mr. Stevens, Mr. Mormon, and Mr. Barnes, do I have that right? Yeah. I'm sorry, pardon? Mr. Tillman. Tillman, I'm sorry, are with us this morning and would, at the chair's pleasure, of course, be willing and maybe even eager to share a little bit of their stories. The question, in terms of passage of 755, would increase the amounts compared to the current bill. as does in its current form 397, but one would be more than the other. And our view is,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator
Are
Peterson.
the amounts taxable?
that's an interesting question, Senator. You'll see that the new legislation makes clear that they are not taxable. Candidly, it's unclear to me whether they've ever been taxed in the past. The existing legislation the existing statute is silent as to that point.
Now, Senator Lucas's bill is Senate Bill 755. It's already passed the Senate.
Yes, sir.
And shall we operate based on that figure as opposed to the House bill?
That
That's the first issue.
397 has now been conformed to 755. So the bill before you today does in fact have the figures in it
I see.
that 755 has.
Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas's bill.
Which is
Yes,
a higher
sir.
figure.
Yes, sir.
I think the second issue has to do with the current population survey versus the American Community Survey, having to do with median household income. I think staff is recommending we adopt the current population survey. Isn't that right? Which is actually a little higher than in terms of median income.
I regard that, it was explained to me by staff beforehand, as a technical change, and it makes sense. It's the most current and accurately available information on income.
Correct.
All right, at some point when you like, if the individuals are here, if you'd like to introduce them and say briefly
Certainly.
what their
Gentlemen,
case is all about.
who wants to go first? Here, have a seat.
Welcome.
How you doing? Good morning.
Your name is?
My name is Javon Tillman.
Okay.
And, in 2009, I was wrongly convicted of armed robbery by false witness identification. I served 8 years in prison, and I've received absolute pardon. I think
Speak into it if you don't mind. Is it on?
It's on.
Okay.
absolute pardon. I think like 45 days ago today. Things like I understand, like first I didn't know I was going home or nothing, so I ain't had no idea about no money or nothing like that, for real. But the first thing when I get home, the first thing I notice is that my mental health. Of course we need money because we gotta get everything from where we left off, But I think the things that people need help with also is like mental health. Because when you're in that place like that, you lose a lot. You don't just lose like time, you lose a lot of yourself, and you'll never get that back. So, I just hope y'all support
Where
our
were
bill.
were you imprisoned?
I was at Buckingham Correctional.
Where are you from, sir?
I'm from Richmond.
Okay, well, it looks like it's a request for $408,000.
Yes, sorry, I forget the bill number, but it's one of the six.
1358.
Yeah.
1358.
Okay. I'm
It
so
looks
sorry.
like you get some amount up front and then the back of $306,000. It looks like it'd be an annuity. So you get paid over time.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Peterson, again, a couple of differences between the two bills. As 397, which is before you today, has been conformed to 755. One change is that would do away with the annuity process. 397, as it passed the House, kept the annuity process, but changed the upfront payment from 20% to 25%. And there are some provisions in the annuity process that have to do with the age of the person, and if the person is over 65, that can be paid out in a shorter annuity.
How do the bills differ in terms of whether there's an annuity or lump sum?
755.
Which is?
Thank you very much, Mr. Tillman. 755, the terms of which are before you in the form of 397, because they've been conformed, do away with the annuity process. My bill, as introduced, did so. The House, I guess it was the Appropriations Committee, reimposed the annuity process, but changed the upfront payment from 20 to 25%.
So, right.
That was the difference between our bills.
Yeah, so the bills have been conformed, correct?
They have, and I
Including-
think we're destined for conference, because when Senator Lucas gets over to the House, I'm
Okay.
confident it'll
Okay.
be conformed.
So we don't have to decide that today?
I don't think that's right.
Okay.
I think that's right, yes.
Okay. Okay.
All righty.
Yeah.
Should we meet the other folks?
Yeah, let's do that. And your name?
Emerson Stevens,
Mr. Stevens, where are you from?
Lancaster, Virginia.
Whitestone?
No, Kilmarnock area.
Kilmarnock,
Yeah,
okay.
Kilmarnock area, yeah.
Tell us your story.
My name is Emerson Stevens. 1986, I was wrongfully convicted of murder and abduction. And then I was sentenced, took to, into court, and they, had a bunch of people testify against me, and that was not telling the truth. The Commonwealth attorney and the sheriff in that county withheld evidence that that today, there's a reason I'm here in front of you today. Then my children and I and my family have suffered quite a bit, being over 30 years in prison for a crime that somebody else committed. And I thank God every day for DNA testing. It's a great tool, and I hope they can continue, getting it better and better to help others who are incarcerated as well. But in 2000, my mother passed away. 2007, I lost my father, and then 3 years later, my oldest sister passed away, and in 2016, I lost my daughter. My oldest daughter passed away from breathing and complications, and that hit hard, being incarcerated and can't go out to go to a funeral or funerals, and it's just been rough. And then a year later, I get out of prison, and then you struggle trying to find jobs, and I was lucky that I did find a job, and I've been working, but it's not enough. This money would help greatly, help me, my children that I have left. I have a son and another daughter left, and it ended my marriage by me being wrongfully convicted and spent over 30 years in prison. So,
Where were you located when you were locked up?
Lancaster, and from the jail, I went to Powhatan receiving. From there, they sent me to Augusta Correctional Center. I spent 4 years there. And then, because of my mother, at the time, my mother and father was still living, and their health, they was in their 70s. And I got transferred to Brunswick Correctional Center. I spent 20 years there until they closed Brunswick, and then I was released from Greensville Correctional Center.
Who represented you to see the Fourth Circuit recommended the governor grant a pardon?
Yes,
who
the Innocence Project in Charlottesville.
no.
Yeah, they're great people, and they're great attorneys,
Yeah.
and I thank God for them.
Yeah. How does being in prison affected your mental health?
Very much, because shortly after I was out for a while, then I started to having nightmares of being incarcerated all those years, and knowing that I was innocent of the crime, and being incarcerated with people that really did commit the crimes, and it was rough. It was really, it took a toll on mental stage and physical,
How old are you now?
I am 68.
Yeah.
68 years old. I'll be 69 in October.
Any other questions? Thank you so very much for coming. We're so sorry.
Thank you.
By the way, members of the committee, if I might, I would like to introduce Juliet Hatchett with the Innocence Project.
Well, good.
Runs it, or,
I'm the associate director. I
that
don't
means she
quite run
runs
it.
it. That means she runs it. Don't tell the director I said that. But who's been enormously helpful to, most importantly, these gentlemen,
Yeah.
and also to me and my office as we've been.
Yeah, okay. And your name?
Bobby Mormon.
Okay, tell us your story.
So Mr. Mormon's asked me to speak for him today. So he's here, but I think it'll be a little easier if I do the talking for him.
Sure.
Mr. Mormon was convicted of a drive-by shooting he did not commit in Norfolk, Virginia. He served about 22 years in prison. The true perpetrator of this crime actually came forward and testified at trial that he had been the true perpetrator. All of the other participants in the crime also testified in Mr. Mormon's favor. Ultimately, he was convicted nonetheless. Our Innocence Project clinic took on his case several years ago. He was released on parole in 2016 after serving 22 years. Mr. Mormon had maintained his innocence throughout the trial and after, and at sentencing, the judge took issue with his asserting his innocence, told him he was going to bring the ceiling down on him, and sentenced him to 48 years for a crime in which no one was injured in this drive-by shooting.
Who was the judge, by the way?
Jerome James.
In Norfolk, Jerome
Norfolk.
James. Yes.
Jerome? Who?
James.
James, okay.
Yes.
No, he's not on the bench any longer.
Did I hear you say no one was injured in the?
No one was
drive-by?
injured.
Yeah.
No. So Mr. Mormon was released in 2016. He has been.
Could you, James, who was with the governor's office over on,
Yeah, no.
the judge is his brother.
We've been representing him for years. He received an absolute pardon in July of 2021. And Mr. Mormon has been doing the best he can, has been working. He's had some post-traumatic stress disorder issues, and I think this experience he has told me has taken quite a toll on his mental health. He lives with his parents, who've been very supportive, but it has been a struggle. And I can speak to the fact that Mr. Mormon is a lovely person and someone who has persevered despite all odds being against him. And thank you for being here today.
Thanks to the Innocence Project. Y'all do a great job. How large is your project?
We have 3 attorneys, so we're small, but we work with a lot of students who don't get paid for their efforts, so they do good work.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. Good luck. So sorry what happened.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill. As I said, in its current form, it's been conformed to Senator Lucas's 755. It'll come out of the House looking different.
Okay, is there anybody else that's here? No? No, okay, all right.
If you have any questions on
Yeah.
Delegate Sullivan's other 3 individual bills, though I also represent those 3 and can answer any questions for those.
Okay. Anything else?
Happy to answer any questions from the panel.
Delegate Hudson?
The gentleman that I'm representing can't be here. He's suffering from cancer and is unable to travel, but I'd be happy to share something.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do. Welcome.
Which bill is that?
Crum.
1263.
Which one?
Paul Jonas Crum. Yeah. Tell us about Mr. Crum.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Crum was wrongfully convicted of obstruction of justice and sentenced to 10 years in prison on that charge. The Virginia Supreme Court has since vacated his conviction and held that he was denied effective assistance of counsel. Mr. Crum's counsel coerced him into accepting the plea agreement based on the prosecutor's threat to reinstate an attempted capital murder charge, despite no probable cause or evidence to support such a charge. As I mentioned, Mr. Crum is 62 years old and suffering from cancer, so he can't be here today, but it is my small honor to share his story with you.
What court was this?
That's a good question. I'm afraid I don't know.
Where's Mr. Crum live?
His attorney lives in the Charlottesville area.
Yeah, okay.
I'm afraid I've only ever corresponded with Mr. Crum.
Yeah, who's his attorney currently?
His current attorney is Mr. Jeff Fogel.
Jeff
Fogel with an F.
Vogel. He's in Charlottesville?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator Peterson.
This is Supreme Court granted a habeas and vacated the conviction based on lack of effective assistance of counsel.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Senator Peterson. I believe that all of Delegate Sullivan's cases were granted pardons.
Right.
In this case, this conviction was vacated by the Supreme Court.
And I'm just curious, what facts would have led an attorney to tell him to plead guilty? I mean, what, you know what the facts were?
I'm afraid I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
I assume you're saying that the prosecutor said we're going to reinstate a capital murder case or something like that?
It's my understanding that that was the story, yes, that he was coerced to submit to the plea agreement under threat of that greater charge.
You don't know whether DNA or anything like that was involved in the case?
I'm afraid I don't.
I see a similar pattern, and I assume you don't know his mental condition, but in the other cases, there are serious mental issues that prison caused.
I can only imagine it would to anyone.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so what do we need to do?
Yeah. We need to,
Delegate Sullivan, do you want to start with 397 and we can move? I have substitutes, which I'm happy to hand
yeah,
out.
pass the substitutes out. We'll do it this way, one at a time. Yeah.
So 397, Mr. Chairman, is the reform bill, the one that relates to the process as opposed to the individual relief bills.
Okay. 397.
And what's before you is, has already been through the Judiciary Committee, and in that committee,
Thank you.
the bill was conformed with Senator Lucas's 755. So 397 is before you, but it reads as 755.
Okay, so these,
By the way, I might add, because I did forget to say this, three of these gentlemen, Mr. Carter, Mr. Mormon, Mr. Stevens, there was money in the introduced budget for those three gentlemen. The other three sort of came too late to get into the governor's budget. All seven, I think, of these gentlemen are in the House budget.
And I see, Mr. Chair,
yeah,
I
Senator
see we've taken out the ability of the state to make a claim.
Say again.
Yes, the state cannot make a claim.
That was that was taken out of 397. I believe it remains in 755, the conformed bill before you.
Okay. No estate of or personal representative for the decedent is entitled to make a claim.
So in other words, if your father was wrongfully convicted, gets out and then dies, or dies in jail, in prison, then there's no claim to the estate.
That is the current law, and both Senator Lucas and my bill, as introduced, did away with that. The House, in its infinite wisdom, has reimposed that requirement. But the bill before you, in its current form, would allow an estate to make a claim.
Well, not in this substitute, Delegate. The language struck out.
In the nature.
And what just got handed to me is struck out.
On line 54 and 55.
You gotta add it back in?
No, it's just moved to a different part of the bill.
Say that again, I can't hear you.
This is Josh Kaplan, DLS. The provision about estates is on lines 54 and 55 of the substitute that was just handed out.
Yep.
Okay, so it's been added back in.
So what's the consequences of it being in or out? I mean,
The prohibition in line 20 is removed, and on line 50, what did you just tell me?
54.
54, it's made clear that an estate can have a claim
well, okay.
in the currently configured bill.
So line 20, 21 says no estate of or personal representative for the decedent is entitled to seek a claim for compensation for wrongful incarceration. And you say it's back in there somewhere?
Picks up on line
54.
54.
Okay. Okay, tell me the legal consequences. I'm not sure how in a state, maybe a state could have a claim, but how does that work?
I think it would just put it in the category of essentially of a tort that survives the death of the decedent.
All right, okay. I don't know how you'd prove that, but anyway, maybe you could. It did?
It's been in the Bennett Bar Board case. He passed away while his legislation was pending.
Oh, I see, okay.
Was he the one with the cancer?
Yes.
Okay. All right, do we need to pass these bills separately, or what? Katie?
Yes.
Oh, all right, is there a motion we,
I move recommend.
okay.
Second.
Move to recommend reporting all of these bills. There are 7 of them, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, all the bills. All in favor of the motion to recommend reporting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. And this is
Just for the record, I want to make sure, are you talking about just my 7 bills? Because there is an 8th bill before the committee.
Is there a difference?
That's Delegate Hudson's bill.
Delegate Sullivan has the compensation bill, and then 6 individual gentlemen, and then there's an 8th bill.
Well, I think we just voted on them in a block, right?
Yeah, vote on the block.
Yeah,
It said 7, and there are 8, is all I'm saying.
Okay. Change your number.
okay. All in favor of the motion to report all 8 bills?
8 bills.
Vote,
Second.
say aye, yeah,
Aye.
say aye. Aye, all opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. 8 bills. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
thank
subcommittee.
you.
That includes.
Anybody
Hudson's
else
bill.
have anything to say?
Thanks you all.
Thank you all for coming, really appreciate it, and so sorry for what happened to you. Nobody can make it up. Maybe this will help a little bit. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your stories. That's very important. Okay, thank
Anything
you.
else, Mr. Chair?
That's it, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work, Richard.
Yep.
Way to go, way to go. Thank you for the
Thank
Anderson's
you.
project. We appreciate it.